Hey YouTube, Joyboy here. So, today I want to talk about Bobbin and his triumphant return to the story. And so guys, upon saying this, I am no doubt going to incite many dislikes because of the fact that people have already decided that Bobbin is trash and his role is done in the story and he's dead and he will stay dead. This, I guarantee, will be something that people will think or comment. And this could very well be the case, and I could be completely wrong, but I really do not think so. And it's not because I have any preference or any love for Bobbin or I have any ulterior motive other than details within the story actually lead me to believe this. And so what are these details? Well, Oda took the time to introduce Bobbin's character in a way that implied great importance. But as the story has progressed through Whole Cake Island, this importance has never really been lived up to. I just think that it's really curious that Bobbin was one of the first Big Mom pirates that we were ever introduced to. Big Mom herself, Pudding, Tamago and Peckham's, Capone, and Bobbin for some reason. All of these other characters have had very important roles within Whole Cake Island, with the possible exception of Tamago, but Tamago has a history with one of the main characters in this arc, Pedro, which makes it more justifiable. But Bobbin has, at this point in time, no importance and has been treated like pure garbage. It's so incredibly easy to break down everything that we know about Bobbin and what he's done in the story up until this point in time. Back in Fishman Island, he was first introduced having destroyed a country on Big Mom's orders for failing to provide the sweets that they promised. And then later on, he was part of the enraged army. We didn't actually get to see him fight at all in that event, which was curious to me. And then later on, we can see him sort of stroll up onto Sanji while Sanji is contemplating, tries to nab the bento box that Sanji eventually ended up giving to Luffy. Sanji was having none of it and wrecked him. Bobbin then goes on a spiel about how he's going to quote-unquote fix things. His bounty is revealed to be, for his perceived role in the story, incredibly low, at just a little bit over 100 million berries. And then he goes and tries to track down Sanji, where he takes another L from not even Capone, Capone's subordinates, and Vito. And the very last that we see of him, he's shot, he's down for the count, and presumed dead. But is he dead? Is his role in the story complete? Based on the events that have transpired within the story, I think at this point it's undeniable that you should think, and it's probably mostly true, that Bobbin is not particularly powerful. Having been taken out by Vito and Gotti by itself, not even captains, I think that this is probably true. But I really don't think Bobbin has been given powers that are consistent with someone who is just truly overpowered. I think Bobbin is a character who is best utilized in very specific ways. And this is kind of where I want to talk about his Devil Fruit power, or his powers. We don't actually know the source of it, but he clearly possesses the ability to hypnotize large groups of people. This is an ability which I believe has the potential to be completely hacks. It's one of those abilities that, if it actually works, then you can't really do anything about it, and you're best to try and avoid him using this ability at all costs. It honestly reminds me a lot of the other character within the story of One Piece who has a similar ability. Django also uses hypnotism, and how the Straw Hats dealt with him in the Syrup Village arc. When someone has an overpowered ability such as that, it's best to surround them with numbers, or use sneak attacks, or use long-range attacks to avoid the effects of hypnotism, which is kind of the impression that we've gotten of how people have slipped through Bobbin's defenses up until this point. Sanji attacked him, but he wasn't really expecting to get attacked, thus could be construed as a sneak attack. And then also we have his fight versus Vito and Gato, which is not shown, but he's shot, which sort of implies some sort of range. Additionally, they had numbers on him as well. So really what I'm trying to say here is that nothing I've said guarantees his importance in the story, and I'm not saying that he has to be physically strong, but his powers alone are something that should be, in various ways, feared. But let's actually talk about why I think he will return into the story. And it's very, very simple, guys. Oda took the time to introduce Bobbin's powers, these hypnosis-like abilities. But these circumstances which led to Oda revealing this to us was completely contrived. The entire purpose of this scene was to in fact introduce his abilities. However, Bobbin has yet to actually use the abilities in the actual story in a way that influences or impacts the plot at all. Oda does not reveal interesting and unique powers for characters and not ever use them. Characters which are given treatment, such as Bobbin has been getting in Whole Cake Island, do not get unique powers. And again, the scene in which Bobbin actually used his powers was completely contrived. It was completely unnecessary, it did not follow the natural progression of the plot. Bobbin had absolutely no need to hypnotize those fodders who heard the ruckus after Sanji beat Bobbin's face in. Oda had no need to waste a unique ability which he could use later in the story in order for him to convince the subordinates not to follow him and for him to do everything that he's already done in the story. So if the purpose of this scene was to show us Bobbin's powers as a means of foreshadowing that he will use it in the future, then naturally it follows that he will use it in the future at some point in time. Bobbin will return. But then this becomes a little bit hazy, right? Because we don't know how the story will progress from this point in time. We don't know what the future of the Big Mom Pirates will be like in the story. And so Bobbin could use this ability in Whole Cake Island right now. But a lot of people are wondering if the Straw Hats will find a way to escape and Big Mom will chase them or situations like that. So maybe Bobbin will reappear in the story in another arc. It's very hard to be 100% certain. But I have one idea, one connection that I've made, which to me is very interesting and worthy of talking about. And this idea, simply put, suggests that Bobbin may use this ability not on the Straw Hats or their allies, but rather Big Mom herself. A lot of people already think this and consider me part of the group here, but I believe that Big Mom at some point in time will rage, or in some way become a danger to the Big Mom Pirates themselves. This was foreshadowed all the way at the beginning of Whole Cake Island, chapter 829, where Big Mom goes King Kong, her rage hits, she cannot recognize anyone, she cannot hear anyone, and she attacks people indiscriminately, including her own family. And she nearly destroyed Whole Cake Island itself. And so the Big Mom Pirates' response to this happening was to essentially try and order the cooks to make whatever it is that Big Mom desired. In this case, it was croquembouche. And everyone was sort of waiting on the chefs to make it for her. And ultimately, they didn't need to because Jimbei showed up to save the day with croquembouche tourists and stopped Mama's rage. But if this rage were to happen now, again, most of all the fodders on the island are already knocked out. We don't know if this effect actually goes down into the island itself, but for sure it happened to everyone that was on the castle roof, which coincidentally happens to be the majority of the cooks on Whole Cake Island. So the normal method in which the Big Mom Pirates deal with Mama's rages does not seem very viable at the moment, and this is without mentioning the fact that they are currently dealing with intruders and enemies with the Vinsmoke and Capone and the Straw Hats. Additionally, we don't know if the underworld brokers are friendly or not. So if Big Mom goes on a rage, then the Big Mom Pirates will not be able to focus exclusively on lifting this. And so what other options do they have if they can't make what it is that she needs, and if they can't go search the island for the particular dessert that may already be made? Then you kind of have to fight Big Mom yourself in order to defend the country from her. And based on what has been revealed in the story so far, this does not seem likely to work because Big Mom is so drastically overpowered, especially for those who fear her, which it's very clear that most of her subordinates fear her, and thus would be susceptible to losing their lifespan. And we also must not forget that if the Big Mom Pirates have to defend Totlin against Big Mom herself, they don't want to injure her. Injuring her would only happen if, first of all, they can, and second of all, if there's no other option left. And so this might happen regardless of this idea or not, but I think that what you really need is one overpowered move which could in some way incapacitate Big Mom. This is honestly really similar to how the Straw Hats dealt with the kids in Punk Hazard. I've already made parallels between the kids in Punk Hazard and Big Mom and their situations, but in order to stop the kids, the Straw Hats didn't want to beat the kids. They wanted to knock them out without actually injuring them. And the one ability currently revealed that is present in Whole Cake Island, which could be similar to this, would be Bobbin's hypnosis powers. Bobbin could make Big Mom sleep. But while Oda specifically foreshadowed Bobbin's abilities in a way that suggests to me that they will be used at some point in the future, we don't know exactly how. However, there are 2 bits of additional evidence, possible foreshadowing, which may suggest that this particular use for it. First of all, Bobbin is known as Bobbin the Fixer, and he specifically states that he will fix this. Now, of course, he wasn't talking about Big Mom's rage, but he could fix Big Mom's rage. And Bobbin said this as well, which at the time, and even today, seems kind of weird to say, but he says this: even Hell's demons make appearances at Mama's tea parties. Now, of course, again here, he's not talking about Big Mom, but in this case, if Big Mom rages during her tea party, wouldn't she herself be Hell's demon? The potential double meaning of both of these lines has me very curious. And so with this connection established, there's some other things that I need to say as well, which is how exactly would Bobbin come to know that his powers were needed? Well, Big Mom currently is screaming. This is one intense scream that undoubtedly everyone in Totland and Whole Cake Island are now aware of what is going on in some fashion. I imagine that once Big Mom stops screaming, if she does and if Bobbin is still alive, Bobbin and everyone else will want to go and see what is happening. And so I've gotten quite a few comments throughout the last couple weeks of really questioning why Big Mom would go into a rage, because we're sort of led to believe that her rages are derived off of her desire of specific sweets. And so there's really nothing that suggests specifically that Big Mom will start raging. But I really beg to differ. To start off with, the wedding cake which she desires a fuck ton, is destroyed. And the only reason that she really hasn't started raging about that is because she's conflicted between her rage of the cake getting destroyed and the portrait of Mother Carmel getting destroyed. The Big Mom pirates described this as sort of her rage meter being full. And we should also keep in mind that over the last few chapters, Big Mom has been thinking exclusively about her past when she was younger, and specifically about that one particular day in which Mother Carmel disappeared. The very same day in which she and the other orphans in Carmel consumed the ever-delicious birthday cake made of croquembouche. I wonder if thinking about this day might in some way trigger her to crave and rage over having croquembouche. And I also find it convenient that Bobbin is not with the rest of the Big Mom pirates right now, up on the roof. And so if Mama were to start raging, right, and Bobbin was already there, then her rage wouldn't last very long if he could use his powers to stop her. But the fact that he was injured beforehand, and not with everyone else, it would take a lot longer for Bobbin to intervene, thus allow for Oda to allow Big Mom to rage and destroy a lot of things before Bobbin has the opportunity to act. But guys, there are many other possibilities and ideas that are out there which may be the case and not this particular idea. I just think that it works in so many different ways to sort of fulfill everything that we're left wanting in the story. Bobbin then occupies a role which is deserving of the impression that Oda initially gave him in the story. He's also then is using his powers, which Oda has foreshadowed. And if he is really as weak as Oda has given us the impression that he is, his powers are not interesting in a battle sense. They're interesting in a strategic sense. A battle involving Bobbin would be very, very boring. I very much prefer the idea that Bobbin uses his ability on an opponent who cannot be beaten otherwise. But anyway guys, that's all I really want to talk about today. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree or disagree and why. Share your thoughts. Like the video if you liked the video. Dislike the video if you disliked the video. Subscribe if you want to be notified for my future content. And as always guys, have a wonderful day.